My name is Matt Roberts and I'm the Senior Technical Staff Member for the IBM Cloud Pak for Integration Development team. And in this short video I'm going to be introducing to the AWS Quick Start for the IBM Cloud Pak for Integration, which enables you to quickly and easily deploy the Cloud Pak for Integration into AWS EC2. So in this video we're going to go through 4 key steps. First of all, I'll show you how to navigate to locate the AWS Quick Start, and then I'll describe some of the tips for preparing for success, the things you should prepare up front before you get started. And then in the third section, I'll give you a walkthrough of the key fields to fill in when you're initializing the deployment. And then lastly, I'll introduce you on how to get started actually using your deployment infrastructure. Let's get started. So first of all, we're going to search for the AWS Quick Starts, so we can navigate to the home page. I'm just going to select the AWS Quick Starts homepage here from the search results. And you can see here there are something like 200 or so Quick Starts that exist in totality. An easy way to find the IBM Cloud Pak one is if you select Integration Platform on the left-hand side, then we're one of the 2 options here. And if you select the IBM Cloud Pak for Integration, then you'll see all of the details about our Cloud Pak. And you can see very quickly up front, there's an architectural diagram here that will describe and show what it is we're going to deploy when we drive the Quick Start. And there's a description on the left-hand side of the types of AWS objects that are going to be deployed in order to support that infrastructure. So what I'm going to do now is to click into the deployment guide, because that highlights some of the key things that we need to know up front when we're deploying the Cloud Pak for Integration in EC2. So there's lots of great information in here, but it can be quite daunting as the document's quite long. So one of the purposes of this video is to highlight what the key parts are and the important bits, so that you can focus on being successful. So in particular, I'm going to skip down to planning the deployment, as this is the bit that talks about the things we need to do up front. And you can see some background knowledge here about AWS and Cloud Pak for Integration in general. And if we look at the technical requirements, you can see there's a number of aspects to be focused on before you start the deployment. Resource quotas is one of them. Typically this is fine if you're deploying into a new region, but if you're using an account which is very busy, then you may have potentially challenges with some of these resource usages. You may run out of quota, so that's something to be aware of before you get started. Supported regions is effectively anywhere that you want to deploy 3 availability zones, so there's not generally a problem there. And then the kind of really interesting ones are as kind of in here. So we're going to need an EC2 key pair in order to deploy our EC2 instances. This is a pretty standard thing for deploying an EC2. So if you're not familiar, if you want to navigate into your EC2 console, select services, select EC2, and then go into key pairs. Then there's a mechanism here that if you've not got one already, you can create a new key pair. You can see that I've pre-prepared one here for the purposes of the demo. And if I go back to the next step, then IAM permissions is important. So the Quick Start's going to do quite a lot for you inside the AWS infrastructure. It's going to create lots of different objects and a VPC and some load balancers and so forth. So it needs quite a lot of permissions. An easy way of making sure you've got the right permissions is to make sure that your user ID has administrator access policy. So if I navigate back into the IAM part of EC2, you can see I've selected my user ID here, and if I click into it, then I've got this administrator access policy here all set up and ready to go. So I'm ticked off there, all good. Next up, I need to get some subscription keys, so I can use kind of trial deployments of the various components. Firstly is the Red Hat subscription that we'll use for OpenShift Container Platform and OpenShift Container Storage. If you don't have a pull secret already, if you don't have paid entitlement, there is a free trial option. So if you click on Evaluate Red Hat OpenShift, it will take you to this page here. You can sign up for a free 60-day trial. So click on the button. It will ask you to log into your Red Hat account. So I'm going to log in with matt.roberts@uk.ibm.com, which is my email address, and then also with my password. I've just pasted my password in there, and then I'll log in. And if you're doing this for the first time, it will take you to the right sort of pages. It will actually give you a download for OpenShift, which we're not going to use in this case. But once the download has run, this page will trigger you to go to the right page where you'd also get your pull secret. If you find that it doesn't immediately download and kind of give you the pull secret that you're looking for, you can actually navigate to this page here, which is cloud.redhat.com/OpenShift install pull secret, which is where you can get your pull secret. So this is going to give you a file that you can download locally onto your machine by clicking on that download pull secret option. So I would save this locally, and then what you actually need to do is to take this file and upload it into AWS S3. So we'll go and do that now. So I have pre-prepared, there's a bucket in my S3 account. This one's called CP4I Matar. Obviously yours would have a different name. But if I go into that bucket, this is empty, but I can upload a file. I'm going to add files and get my pull secret file that I downloaded from the Red Hat website. Just click on that and then click upload, and it will store it into my S3 bucket for me here. And the particular piece of information that we need as part of the Cloud Pak for integration deployment is this S3 URI here, this particular piece of text. Yours will obviously be different, but you can click on the button here to copy that, and we'll use that in a second as part of the deployment process. So if we then go back to our set of kind of pre-set up steps, the last piece on the agenda is the Cloud Pak for integration subscription. Again, if you don't have a paid entitlement for this already, and many people may not, there is a 60-day trial here. So just open up this website, and you'll find it asks you to register. So if you've got an IBM account, you can log in, an IBM ID account, you can log in up front, or if you don't have one, you can type in your information here. And what this will do when you click through is to give you a kind of long unique key, which is your pull secret entitlement for your free trial of the Cloud Pak for integration. So I'm going to log in with my account here and click continue. Okay, and you can see once I've done the login process and done the registration, there's an entitlement key here that I can use to drive my free trial of the Cloud Pak for integration. And if we go back to the home page for the Cloud Pak for integration and click onto the how to deploy process, there's a kind of summary here of some of the things that we did, and I'm going to click deploy into a new VPC in order to start that process of actually deploying the AWS Quick Start for the Cloud Pak for integration. So I'm now logged into my AWS account, as you can see, and the first thing to do, very importantly, is to select the region that you want to deploy into. So it will probably automatically select North Virginia as the kind of default location. In many cases you won't want to use that, so I'm going to select Ireland, as I know that's a kind of quiet area of our account that we use. And it has pre-configured the kind of route templates for using the Cloud Pak for integration, so we can skip straight through this one and select next. And then there's a big form here that are all the input parameters that we're interested in driving for the Cloud Pak. So what we're going to do next is to work down this form, and we'll configure or change some of the values as appropriate. So the stack name is entirely up to you to choose. I'm going to call mine matar-quick start, just to make sure it's obvious it's me. You can decide whether you want an HA3 availability zone deployment model or a 1 availability zone deployment model. I'm going to stick with 3. And then select the availability zones for your region that you want to deploy into. Some regions have more than 3, which is why you can pick the ones you want to use. And there's a big block of IP addresses here. We can actually leave these as is. The template is going to create us a new VPC using these IP addresses. And then the next thing is our boot node. So this is an IP range that we should permit access to our kind of boot node for. And just for the sake of simplicity, I'm going to make this accessible to everyone. Obviously, for security reasons, you would normally constrain this, but I'll be deleting this stack immediately afterwards anyway, so that there's no concern there. And the next item is a DNS name. So this is something that you'll need to configure in Route 53, and we're looking for the base domain name that exists in your Route 53 registration. So if I move over to my Route 53 page, you can see we've got a couple of domain names here. I'm going to select one of them and use that. And what the template will do is to create a subdomain automatically on our behalf from that base domain name. So mydomain.com, for example, whatever domain it is for you. And then I'm going to select the key pair. So here's my key pair that I created previously. All of these values about the number of nodes and the size of the nodes I'm going to leave as is. And I get to pick the OpenShift cluster name, so matar-quick start, just as an example. I'm going to leave the OpenShift container storage configuration the same as is. And then here's my piece where I'm going to put the Red Hat pull secret. So I'm going to go back to S3 here, take my copied URL, paste it in here. No problems there. And then my next piece is the entitlement key for the Cloud Pak for integration. So this is the one that I got from IBM. There you go, so I pasted that in. I have to agree to the IBM license agreement. You can copy and paste this link if you want to read through the whole thing in detail. Leave the OpenShift project as is unless you particularly want to configure it. And then here I could select a user interface password for the platform navigator, but I'm going to leave it to auto-generate one for me, and it will save this in an AWS secret. Also options here if you want to control and have an example instance deployed automatically for you. I'm going to leave these ones all as false, and then we'll go in and manually do one a bit later. And then these three fields at the bottom keep as is. They're defaults provided by AWS. But the last one is important because this output S3 bucket is where the Quick Start will write some logs if something goes wrong, or in fact even if it's successful. Particularly good if you need to do debugging. So this is literally the name of the bucket. So in this case for me it's cp4i-matar, which I'll just paste in here. And then I can click on next. And then in fact in this next kind of step 3, I don't have to change anything at all. Sometimes you might want to add tags. If you have a particular mechanism for marking who's deployed resources in your account, you might do that here. But we don't need to put any specific steps in here. So we're all good to go. And I'm going to click next to move on to the review settings screen. So quick review of all the properties here. Blah, blah, blah. Tick the boxes to say that you're okay with it deploying stuff, and then it's create stack to begin the deployment. So you'll see very quickly we get a create in progress event in a quick start thing. And the quick start as a whole takes somewhere between an hour and a half and probably 2 hours to deploy everything. So what it's worth doing is just clicking refresh a little bit to make sure that things are going successfully and there aren't any immediate failures. Once that's going, we'll leave it for a bit, go off to do some other activities for a while, and we'll come back when everything's finished. Refreshing break away from the keyboard for a little bit, and you can see that the stack deployment's completed here. It took, in this case, it took 2 hours and 40, slightly longer than normal, but that's the joy of the cloud being a dynamic thing. And in particular, so we can see everything's complete. If I flick over to my S3 bucket, which I had the pull secret in, if I refresh the page here, we should also see that it's written out the logs. There we go. So there's a whole directory, a whole folder full of things that I could go back and use if I wanted to dig into the deployment of the Cloud Pak. Actually, I'm kind of fine as long as everything's working. If I go back to the outputs, and you can see here we've got a number of things that allow us to actually make productive use of the thing that we've deployed. So we've got the platform navigator URL here, and also the OpenShift console URL. And a reference to the secrets, which are stored inside of the AWS Secret Manager that will contain the password that we're going to use to log in. So we are going to open up the Platform Navigator URL. I'm going to accept the self-signed certificates, generated as self-signed cert, so we'll just go through this as normal. That gets us onto the login page. I'm going to go to default authentication. And in the documentation it says that I should use the admin username, so I use that one. And the password is going to the secrets manager here. We can see the platform navigator secret. If I scroll down a little bit, there's a retrieve secret value, and this is the generated password that has been put in place for me. So I'll just copy that and go back to our platform navigator, log in with the password. You can see that it's logged me into the Platform Navigator homepage. So this is running inside of AWS in our newly deployed cluster. Okay, so now if I want to, I can go and deploy one of the capabilities of the Cloud Pak for integration just to prove that everything's up and running. So if I go into runtimes, click on create instance, and I'm going to select to create a Kafka cluster from event streams. Click on next, just the same as I would do normally. I've got a number of templates here that are example deployment patterns, as it were. So I'm going to click on development just to show something meaningful. Accept the license agreement. I'm going to choose my persistent storage claim. So I've got persistent data. And in particular, the storage class here, you can see that we've got OpenShift container storage, OCS deployed as part of the template, as part of the CloudFormation template. So I'm going to select Ceph RBD, which is what it's recommending me for use with event streams here. I'm going to give it maybe 5 GB of data size here. And the Zookeeper node, I'm going to do the same thing. So I'll also select Ceph RBD, maybe give them 2 GB just for entertainment purposes, and click on create. You can see that that deployment is now up and running, and we're deploying our first Cloud Pak for integration component minutes after the completion of our CloudFormation template, deploying this all into EC2. Okay, and we're all finished. So quick summary, we've used the AWS Quick Start to deploy the Cloud Pak for integration into AWS EC2 in a matter of a couple of hours with a kind of one-click mechanism, so we just set it going and didn't have to do anything after that. There are a few things we did to get ready for success, as it were, creating our EC2 key pair, checking we had the right IAM permissions, obtaining the Red Hat subscription pull secret and the Cloud Pak for integration subscription, and also making sure we had an appropriate DNS name in Route 53. And then when we were actually configuring the deployment, obviously very important to select the right region up front, make sure you put your deployment in the right place, pick your stack name and availability zones, decide which boot node access CIDR you want to put in, paste in the base name for the DNS and select the key pair, and then put in the references to the pull secret and the IBM entitlement key. Accept the license agreement and decide if you want to put a bucket name in for output logs in case you need to do debugging later. And then once everything's finished deploying, you can go in and test and really use the deployment for your productive use, whatever your purposes are. Go to the Outputs tab to get the URLs for the Platform Navigator and also the OpenShift console. And the Secrets Manager is where you get the generated passwords from. So we're all set and good to go. So with that, hopefully you've seen how quick and easy it is to deploy Cloud Pak for integration into AWS EC2 using the AWS Quick Start. Give it a try today, and we look forward to hearing your comments. Thank you very much.